Welcome. This is Al Black with Chewing the Gristle, a poetry chat, and my co-host, Tim Conroy. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, brother Al, thanks.
And our poet today is Kanchan Chatterjee.
Hi, hello.
Yes. We're excited today because Kanchan is interviewing with us from India. And this is the farthest we've ever reached with our interviews of poets. Kanchan Chatterjee is a revenue officer in the government of India. He writes poems, especially Japanese style poems, haiku, tanka, haibun. Kanchan is the author of the haiku collection Shattered Leaves. He has won multiple awards for his haiku, tanka, and haibun from multiple countries: Japan, United States, Romania, Poland, India, etc. And he is published in various journals throughout the world, too many to recite in a short bio. His haiku appears regularly in Japan's official broadcast Haiku Masters, where he was selected as a haiku master on more than one occasion. His poems are featured in a few Indian poetry anthologies, Beyond the Fields and a few others. He was a Pushcart Award nominee in 2012. We're excited to have you. Welcome, Kanchan.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about your poetry journey and your education, those folks that mentored you, and how you came upon writing a Japanese form in English?
Okay, it's a very strange journey because I am from a very small place. I belong to one of the most backward places of India, so it was tough. But I used to read books a lot. So from there, I came across a few names. You came a few beat poets, like Kerouac and Bukowski, Gregory Corso, Gary Snyder. So I just got interested. So slowly and slowly, I started reading them, their books, and I got interested in them. I like their style. They're very down to earth and very. The beat poets are awesome. So, so after that, I graduated. Then I got into this job. Then I lost track with poetry. Then in 2010, something made me go back to poetry. So I started again reading poetry and books, and I was lucky. I met a few persons online on Facebook, and they helped me a lot. They suggested me books. So I then slowly and slowly, I don't know how, I drifted towards haiku, because the most important reason for that was because English is not my first language, and haiku is a very small, only 3-line, 17-syllable poem. So I thought this would suit me. So slowly I started going into that, and haiku has got a typical meditative style. You have to write within 3 lines, and you have to be very meditative to capture a moment. So that got me interested into haiku.
So what haiku masters have you read in the past, and who do you admire now?
Well, of course, Basho was there, Basho and Busan and Issa and Shiki. But Basho for me is like unreachable. He's like God of haiku. But I find Issa and Shiki approachable, and I love their verses very much. So these two are my favorite among the classical Japanese haiku masters. And there are some modern haiku masters too, but basically I like those old classical masters. I look up to them for inspiration.
Okay, thank you. Tim.
Tell us a little bit about your poetry collection, if you would, and your vision for your collection.
Okay, all the verses in that book were written between 2016 and 2019, when I was posted in a very small place near Indo-Nepal border. And it was almost like a village, a typical Indian village, just a little bit better than an Indian village. So I was living there all alone without my family, because my family lives in some other city, and my wife is working and my son is in school. So I had to leave them and go there and stay there. So that gave me ample time to read and to write a lot, to travel a lot. I went to Nepal for 5-6 times, and I enjoyed that period. And I meditated a lot. I don't know how I drifted into meditation during that time, because I had enough time. And it was a small place, no TV, nothing, no fridge, no AC, self-cooking. So I was like a typical hippie type of life I led there. I enjoyed it. So all the verses in that book are from that period.
Well, how about read some selections from that book? We'd love to hear some.
Okay, I'll read a few. So you must have heard of Bodh Gaya. Bodh Gaya is a place of Buddhists. It is a religious place of Buddhists. That is in India, in Bihar, where Buddha attained enlightenment. So when I was there, I wrote this. Bodh Gaya, a monk unwraps his shawl to take a selfie. Bodh Gaya, a monk unwraps his shawl to take a selfie. The second one, forest trail, the sound of dewdrops with each step. Forest trail, the sound of dewdrops with each step. And the last one from that selection, well then, darling, let's go out and become sunflowers. Well then, darling, let's go out and become sunflowers.
That's beautiful. All three were just gorgeous.
Thank
Can
you.
you talk to us a little bit about the poetic elements, the elements of a haiku, of a Japanese style haiku?
Okay. Initially, when I started learning haiku, I was confused because, in English haiku, there are many thoughts. So some insisted on putting in the season word. Some insisted on putting in the cut mark and all that. I was totally confused. Then I met someone on internet, and she is from USA. I have dedicated the book to her, my haiku teacher, Elaine Andre. So she guided me. She made it very simple. She said, look, you put a season word, that is a kigo. You put a cut mark, that is kireji. And it should be within the 17 syllables. Not necessarily 575, but 353, around 353 and all that. So that solved a lot of problems for me. And I'm really grateful to her that she guided me. And the basic element in haiku is the season word and the cut mark and the syllables. These are three basics. Otherwise, there is no difference between a 3-line short poem or a haiku. How can you tell that it's a haiku? Unless and until you have the season word, the cut mark, and the
I first got interested in haiku because I'm very verbose, and haiku demands concision.
Yes.
How much revision do you do, and is a poem ever finished even when you're writing haikus?
I think it is never finished, because every time I go back to my finished haiku, I think I can change it a bit. So it's an ongoing process.
Hmm. And revision, how much do you do? I mean, ongoing. Do, are your poems a lot longer and then you start condensing them, or do you just write them and they come out in a very concise way?
Generally, I get a word or a line, a single line. It starts with a word or a single line, and then I work on it. And I too, I revise it at most once or twice, not more than that.
Hmm. That's wonderful.
You know,
Tim.
you've had a lot of success. A lot of your poems have been published in many different places. And so, how does a poet, what advice would you give to the emerging poet about working through rejection, mediocrity, getting better, getting to the point where their work is being accepted?
I think one should do one's job and forget it. Give it your best, and then move on. And you have to constantly improve upon yourself. Read a lot, write a lot, and you know, you should have a very big vision, uh, not small vision, very big vision, sort of international vision, and and open-minded, open-hearted. And rejections will come. Rejections are a part of life. You cannot avoid them. But you should go on, and if you like something, you will keep on doing.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
No,
the love should.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great advice, and that's, you know, one of the things that I'm interested in is how'd you find the journals and magazines that you submitted to? You really seem to be everywhere, and so how'd you find these journals and magazines from all over?
They were very supportive. Uh, some of them rejected me. All right, that's okay. I mean, every editor has got his own mindset, own choices. But the most important thing was I love haiku. I loved haiku. Loved writing haiku. So that didn't stop me from writing and sending my work. And I really enjoy the process. That's all.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm not that much, competitive, or I'm a pretty laid back guy from a small town guy. So I don't really, these things doesn't matter much to me. Basic thing is you love doing what you are doing, and you keep on doing that.
So, as a poet, and writing tanka and haibun, there are other forms or poets you read besides haiku?
As I said, I'm a big fan of Gary Snyder and Kerouac also, and then Mary Oliver. I love her. I love her poems. Mostly all of them are from USA. Because my guru, my teacher was from USA, and I asked. There was one person called Kenneth Lumpkin. He is from New Jersey. So I asked him about 10 years back that please guide me. I want to write. And he said, you just read the modern American writers. So he gave me a list, starting with Hemingway, and then the rest, Nathaniel Hawthorne and all those, and I read them. I read them slowly and slowly. I learned the way how to write.
Well, that's exciting to think that from India you learned to be a haiku artist from writer from American poets and writers.
Yes, absolutely.
You are so international.
Thank you. Yeah, I have got that mindset. I don't know. Yeah.
Can you share some more poems with us?
I have. I can read a few from my book. Yeah. After Dad's chemo, we talk of survival rate, monsoon drizzle. In the cowshed, among the mosquito song, ringing cowbell. Warm breeze, the ruffled feathers of a kingfisher. So these are very village type setting, except for the first one in which I talked about my dad's chemo. The rest, as I said, I was living in that tiny place, and all these images are taken from my surroundings there. So there's one. It is one of my favorites. Muggy noon. The post office clock stopped at 6.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. It seems to me, and you tell me about the concepts in that book, but it seems to me you connect rural with urban, with technology, with modernity, with just images of past and present. So conceptually, what were you thinking about the concepts of that collection when you were writing? What sort of concepts were you thinking?
I just tried to capture the moment, be it in a city or in a small place. I just capture the moment. And if that included, high-rise buildings, that's fine. If that included a cow shed, that's okay for me. No problem. So that's it. I just picked up the scenes and wrote down.
Now, I may not say this the right term here, but don't you have some things, some pieces in there that are Japanese death poems? Is that the right way to say it? Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit?
It's a tradition. It used to be a tradition in Japan. When they wrote death poems before dying, when they felt that their time is coming or something like that, when they are old age. So they used to, the poets, even the samurai fighters, they used to write a death poem. And that was their tradition. So I got intrigued. I got interested in that. So I wrote one. I think there is one in that book, in my book. They call it Jisai, death poem. So I also tried writing one. It's an interesting concept, to embrace death. It's very, very unusual for me, very unusual concept. So that's how it is.
For the emerging writer and the writer who wants to do haiku or tanka, are there resources or books or groups they can become part of to help them in this journey?
Groups I don't know, but I can suggest some writers which is essential. Number one is Donald King, then Kenneth Yasuda, then Makoto Ueda, and Hiroaki Sato. These 4 are essential. I would suggest to read their work on Japanese history and culture and haiku. It will help them a lot.
Okay. So in India, is there a big audience for haiku, or 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 are you kind of left on an island?
Uh, it was like an island a few years back, but since 2 3 years, many persons are coming into haiku, and it's an emerging trend. But it will take many years to to have a solid base of haiku poets here. Basically, it has been a lonely and long journey for me.
Mm.
Let me
Tim,
ask you, how important is mystery to haiku? The element of mystery.
Yes, but it is very hard to acquire that skill to put mystery in a haiku. It's important, but that is for after you write for 5 7 years, then you can try to include that. Otherwise, otherwise you just stick to the basics. There are things like yugen. You were talking about yugen mystery, and then there is karumi lightness. Things like that. But these come with practice and meditation, and sitting still. These things are involved. So then only you can get into these things. Otherwise, it takes time basically. At least 5 7 years. Then only we can
Yeah,
incorporate those in.
it really, it seems like that would be one of the hardest elements to, and maybe it's just
Yes.
naturally there because of the concision, but also sadness and empathy seems to be part of haiku. As like you said, lightness,
Yes.
and
Wabi sabi also.
yeah, yes, the cinematic elements,
Yes.
and your haiku does all of that. It's just beautiful. And so, I really encourage our listeners collection. Al, do you have another question?
wow, I have so many, but um, when you're writing haiku or sitting down to write, are there times when you're just stuck, or have you developed a skill set where you can always find something that will prompt you to write?
No. I don't have any fixed routine. I'm uh, as I said. Sometimes it comes with a cuckoo's song. Sometimes it comes with a breeze. It is until unless I get inspired, I cannot write haiku. I cannot force it. It has to come from inside. So I don't have any fixed plan or routine to sit or something like that. It just comes, and when it comes, it pours, of course. For 1 or 2 days, I keep writing, and then it stops. So that's how I go. Maybe it's different for other people. I don't know, but that's how I work.
Hmm.
Well, do you take a journal outside in in busy places, or do you write in inside in your home and in a quiet place?
So I have my cell phone, my iPhone. So I just so it's fine, no problem. I can get an idea in a shopping mall, and I just stand there and I type it on my phone.
What would have Basho written if he had an iPhone? How many more volumes would there have been?
Oh, one can only guess. I can't guess.
Oh.
So, one should, change with the time. Not necessarily we keep on writing about the cuckoo and all that. So
Good.
haiku can be modernized.
Add to the canon.
How can our listeners get a hold of your collection? What's the best way for them to do that?
It's available in Amazon India. number one. Number two, they can contact the publishers, and that is www.authorspressbooks.com.
Well, we will add that link to the description of the episode for our listeners to. And let me ask you, what are you working on now? What types are you working on? A new collection?
Right now, I'm working on a collection of very short stories. They call it flash fiction here in US. Flash fiction, 1 or 2 page long stories. So hopefully by December I'll finish it. Some 100 stories will be there. So let's see what happens.
Oh, I can't wait. That's great.
Who do you read
thank
in
you.
flash fiction?
Because I lack patience. I think I can't write novel. I can't go beyond 1 or 2 pages. Especially since I write haiku, so I can compress the whole thing, I think, in 1 or 2 pages. Let's see how it comes out, because that's a very new market here in India.
So would you share some more poems with us?
Okay, I'll read a few from my book. Here is one. Not one dog barks alarm. Autumn depends. Fresh trimmed grass on the golf course. A young man takes a wild swing. Pilgrim's trail, getting wet in the fog little by little. And this is also one of my favorites. Between thunderclaps, the front door's soft creak.
That's wonderful. Now you're inspiring me
you.
to go write some more haikus. We want to thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
We really want to thank you, because this has been,
Thank you so much.
in many ways, just a wonderful experience. What time is it in India right now?
It's 10 past 8 in the evening.
Okay, and we are mid-morning. We started this at 10 a.m. Yes, but the world is round and the world is one.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you again, and thank you to my co-host, Tim. And we look forward to reading your future flash fiction as well as your haikus. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And namaste.